Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians have been left homeless and starving. Hostages are still being held. Women and children have been murdered and killed. The suffering is immense. It is very heart-wrenching, very disturbing. It makes us all feel helpless, powerless, and frustrated.
But you're not powerless, are you?
I would say this on petitioners' behalf. Our UW students who empathize with the suffering of others are compassionate people who want less suffering in the world. They care about others and they care about the world. They want to make a constructive difference in their life. The petitioners wrote up an excellent petition. They laid out many compelling arguments and provided strong legal analysis for their recommended action. They submitted over 70 pages in support of their petition, spent untold hours compiling supporting data, and invested many hours approaching other UW constituencies in support of their petition, including the most recent supplemental resolution in support of their petition from the Tacoma and Boston student government. They refuse to give up on their effort to achieve justice for people suffering in a faraway land, people they don't even know, and sacrifice the time and effort to stop this war. However, at the same time, the petitioners have not fulfilled two of the threshold requirements to trigger this board to convene the ASCRI on this issue. First, there is a threshold requirement that the relief requested does not divide our university community. This war is clearly and inherently divisive and is clearly dividing our university community. Not only do two wrongs not make a right, but two wrongs on both sides create divisiveness among our various constituents. We must never forget the horrific terrorism on innocent civilians, including taking of hostages. Every country, including Israel, has the right to defend itself from terrorism.
It's not a country, it's a settler colony.
However, the right to self-defense should have reasonable limits. I have concern that the arguable disproportionate force has been used in defending Israel. Nevertheless, what matters is we cannot grant the relief requested if it divides our university community. Petitioners know in their heart that this war is a divisive issue, both here at the UW and throughout our nation. This is true even if petitioners passionately argue that it should not be so divisive. Although many of us may disagree with the U.S. foreign policy toward Israel, or many aspects of it, this disagreement in itself is evidence of the deep division which exists in our country. Our campus is simply a microcosm of our nation's divide. The relief requested is divisive and thus impairs our educational message if we should grant it. For this reason alone, the petition should be denied. Second, the relief requested UW divestment from companies that support Israel needs to make some material difference on the Israeli war effort. Unfortunately for petitioners, the requested relief will not make any real difference in the outcome of the conflict. Although the petitioners understandably want to stop the horrors taking place in Gaza The attention on UW investments is both a misdirected and ineffective attempt to change U.S. foreign policy. Foreign policy is set by our national
Howard, example!
any change in UW investment policy is not going to impact the direction of the war in one way or another.
Be the
Again,
change!
this reason alone means that the petitioner's relief should not be granted.
You're known as a leader!
Invoke my chair's prerogative to suggest a direction for action precisely because this issue has provoked such divisiveness and conflicted many of us on the board.
But you agree we've met the morally reprehensible standard.
Making a decision once. We need to make a decision on this petition once and for all. As chair and as a lawyer, it is my duty to fairly apply the rules to the facts of this case. I will therefore move that the Board of Regents decline to constitute a ACSRI.
Is petitioner allowed to speak? Does petitioner have the right to face our accusers? We have no constitutional right as citizens to speak for our petition. You declare that we have met the morally reprehensible standard, but that it is too difficult, that it is too divisive to make a decision, that it is divisive to decide to not move. You are being more decisions and less actually legal.
I will issue a first warning.
Thank you.
Washington law prohibits disruption of university business. You are disrupting this meeting. Please cease and allow this meeting to proceed. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a first and a second. Now opening it up for discussion among all the regents. I encourage all of you who have an opinion to express it in this open discussion.
You have an opportunity to do the right thing at any time.
Students or our tax dollars have any say?
Regent Harris. Or
Yeah, I'm going to vote against the motion. I think the proposal meets the requirement, so I'm going to be voting against it.
anyone else? Regent Harris.
As I'm sure my colleagues have, I have taken a great deal of time to deliberate this decision. I've read the petition and the new materials provided last week. This decision has been difficult, and I want to briefly explain my perspective and what has led me to my stance. I've written my comments so I can be 100% clear. I believe that the massacre in Israel led by Hamas on October 7th, 2023 was horrible. 1,200 people were killed and 251 hostages were taken. I believe that Israel as a government has the right to exist, and Jewish people everywhere have the right to live without persecution.
You don't speak for us.
I'm speaking for myself right now.
Did Israel pay you to say that?
I'm going to issue a second warning. The second warning is you are disrupting this meeting. Cease your
They're not the same people, so you
disruption.
can't apply a second warning to somebody else. You're going to have to
Those
apply a second warning to me.
disrupting the orderly conduct of university business may be subject to removal from the meeting, prosecution for disorderly conduct or criminal trespass, and interim suspension from our university.
My tuition paid for this building.
Please, Regent Harris, continue.
I believe that Israel as a government has the right to exist, and Jewish people everywhere have the right to live without persecution, hate, and anti-Semitism. I believe that the Israeli government's desire for retaliation towards Hamas is just. However, I do not believe that the consequences of 44,000 Palestinians killed, including 70% women and children, is fair and just. I believe people of Palestinian descent have the same right to exist and the right to live free without persecution, hate, and Islamophobia in the same way that people of Jewish descent deserve. This past 17 months of war dramatically affecting the ability of Palestinian people to have access to food, healthcare, education, and freedom is only an example of the past years of apartheid imposed on the Palestinian people. In fact, in September of 2024, a UN Special Committee report on Israel's practices, I quote, stated that they raised serious concerns of breaches of international humanitarian and human rights laws in the occupied Palestinian territory, including starvation as a weapon of war, the possibility of genocide in Gaza, and an apartheid system in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem, end quote. All of this can be true, and I believe all of these statements are true at the same time. With this said, something must be done to stop the Israeli government's assault and occupation of the Palestinian people. I just do not believe that the University of Washington Board of Regents vote to establish an ACSRI to consider divestment from Israel is the appropriate means at this moment.
Does not invest in warmongering. Tell us with certainty which companies don't, because all we're asking is to investigate. Which companies don't? Can you say with certainty?
I vote for the following reasons. First, the proposal does not meet current criteria for our body to move to create an ACSRI, and I struggle applying criteria to state entities. I quote our charge, quote, the UW Board of Regents governs and stewards the university in succession to past citizens and for the benefit of present and future citizens of the state of Washington, end quote. My colleagues and I take this charge very seriously. The divide in our community right now regarding attention to the ACSRI proposal and the ways in which it has and continues to attack our university community in a negative way is something that we need to give attention to. Because of these criteria, I cannot vote in favor of this proposal. The second point that I want to make is that I'm not getting the idea of our community working collectively to think through ways to oppose the Israeli government.
Why is investigating not one of those?
People. It took roughly 25 years for that South African divestment campaign to occur and have dramatic effect on the system of apartheid.
It should have taken less.
Why couldn't you vote for this too?
You will be removed if you continue to interrupt this meeting.
I know this movement and fight for change, for justice has occurred for a long time, and this will continue to be a long struggle. If we are committed to real change, we need to put in the work, the communication, the collaborations, and the hard conversations to develop a realistic strategy for protesting and moving forward. It can and should be this way for individuals outside of the university, and we can and should organize within the university. I do believe we can figure out how to do this within our university community. We just need the collective will to work together. Within this context and for these reasons outlined, I will abstain from the vote.
Thank you, Regent Harris. Who else would like to comment on the motion? Regent Russell.
I am a student here. I am the student regent.
Speak up.
Can everybody hear me now? Okay. So I am a student here. I am the student regent. I'm not a representative of the students, but I try to consider students when I make certain decisions. But I have to say what's been in my heart for weeks and months now, and I want everybody to understand. So please try to listen with an open heart. Because I know I'm going to get emotional, I'm going to read off my lines. So, I stand here today with a strong belief in the power of ethical decision-making and unity. As we're discussing this, we need to consider that, yes, we're discussing the formation of the SCSRI, and that's an investigation. That's a committee that's going to investigate. It does not necessarily mean that there will be a decision that people find favorable. But while we are doing this, we need to make sure that we're holding ourselves to the highest standards in how we pursue justice. And I appreciate the passion of my fellow students and the community and the determination in advocating for change. But we can't ignore that some of these actions taken in the name of progress have resulted in an environment that feels discriminatory and exclusionary for some members of our community. And that's not right either. That's not the outcome that we are seeking. We're not trying to do something that divides everyone. It's not the values that we stand for as a university either. So as I mentioned, it's, do we feel like there's enough data? Do we feel like there's enough support? And is it in the best interest of everyone that the university and all of its subsidiaries touch, which are people that are not necessarily in these schools? Our decisions may not affect students like myself that are graduating soon, but it will affect future students. So we need to consider that long-term impact. And I want to be clear that I don't think calling for ethical funding is inherently divisive. I don't think it's a divisive thing to consider. I think it's an opportunity for us to work together. I think that that's an opportunity for us to champion for integrity and inclusivity. And we can ensure that our pursuit of equity does not lose sight of compassion and mutual respect. I think we all need to be more respectful of each other. And honestly, I know I'm probably speaking off the cuff, but it's been kind of emotional to see that people don't let each other talk. I can appreciate the passion, for sure. But I also think we shouldn't silence others. We need to ensure that our decisions are equitable for all and progressive. And progress does not mean disparaging each other. We may not agree on, things, but we need to make sure that we are having a dialogue with each other and promote understanding. So I'm hoping, regardless of the decision that's made today, that we can find a way to work together. I do not vote in favor of the motion that was put forward today.
Other regions?
Regent Forsman here. Very difficult decision. I've been on tribal council, Suquamish tribe, for over 35 years, and we faced many hard decisions. Our ancestors faced many hard decisions as well. I agree with many of the comments that have already been made. I believe that this is a very difficult international policy decision. There's hundreds and hundreds of years of documented history around this issue. I'm not an expert on that. I don't endorse Israeli actions in many ways. I think they have poor leadership at this time. I think there's been poor leadership for the Palestinian people as well. And that's resulted in the place we are today. Many people of great wisdom and power have tried to settle this and continue to try to settle this. And I see that us dividing the university, this university, which has really developed a lot of great leaders who, and future leaders and current leaders that may be able to solve this problem. It's been thousands of years that we've been trying to solve this problem. And I want to protect the institution as a place that can maybe nurture the process that we need to have to do this and produce the leadership to bring a solution. Our chief Seattle was here in downtown Seattle on Main Street in 1854 facing a very difficult decision where he had to decide to give up his land to the new people that were coming in. And he had many people who wanted to fight. And he had other people he needed to take care of. And he had a hard decision. And he made that decision not making a difficult place. And I almost feel his spirit in me today as I face two people that are able to support and against this particular issue. But I believe that dividing this institution over this issue is not the long-term health and long-term vision and long-term success of our future. So I will be voting no on it, and I appreciate all the passion, and I appreciate everybody in this room. And I don't want this dialogue to stop, but I want the dialogue to be respectful.
You know what?
I want the dialogue to continue to be respectful because we can have that dialogue here in this institution going forward.
You know,
Why can't we provide comment?
This is the last and final warning. I'm going to ask law enforcement to intervene and remove anyone who further interrupts any of the regents to from talking. So, final warning. Regent Rose.
I just want to first thank every regent who's spoken for their thoughtful and kind comments. We all come to this decision and discussion from our own personal background. It's a very personal issue for me as someone with family in Israel who has been in harm's way. As a supporter of Israel's right to exist, I've also felt personally a great responsibility to try to influence over the last decade Israel to behave in a more just way towards the Palestinian people, and my Israeli family have long been part of the peace movement. And I think one of the saddest repercussions of what's happened over the last year and a half for me has been that fewer Israelis today support a two-state solution, and we haven't made the progress that we might. On October 12th of 2013, when I witnessed the first protest on campus, one of the leaders of the protest on Bullhorn said, while I was witnessing it, we don't want Israel to exist. We don't want these Zionist counter-protesters to exist. It was a really sobering moment for me because while I'm very critical of the Israeli government, I am a Zionist and one who wants to feel at home here on UW campus. And I went home and I called my young son who was living abroad in a part of the world where there's a very mixed demographic. And I asked him as a favor to me to no longer mention to people that he was Jewish. I was really scared. So I share that only to say that this is a very divisive issue and one that I think scares and upsets people on every side of the issue. It's drawn people to our campus who I think have attempted to escalate the issue and divide us. The most recent big demonstration had protesters chanting in support directly of Hamas, that Sinwar had set the bar, and that was also very scary to people like myself. I'll be voting in support of the motion not to establish the ASCII, but I want to echo what Regent Harris said, which is that there needs to be further efforts here at UW and beyond to figure out what we can do to assist in ceasing military efforts in Gaza and improving the lives of the people who live there. Even before the destruction of so much of the infrastructure there and the deaths, I would have been the first person to admit that I would never want to live in that place and that those people deserve the hospitals and universities that we all want for ourselves. And so I want to echo what Regent Tamaki said about my admiration for everyone in this room and all of the petitioners who care so much about people around the world that they don't even know. I have enormous respect for that, and I think it will serve the world well in the future, even if at this moment we aren't able to grant you the relief you seek.
Regent Z.
Yeah, I will start to get to the punchline. I will vote for the motion that you made, but I want to explain why. And I have a deeper concern, having been through two divestment conversations at the university, the one on carbonization of fossil fuels and this one. And the root of each of them, I support. I support decarbonization, and I support, I would not personally invest in fossil fuels, but I also think, And in the case of Israel and Gaza and the events of the last 2 or 3 years, my heart bleeds for the Palestinian people. I think it's reprehensible what Israel has done. I think particularly the Netanyahu government has worked against any kind of two-state solution. They want to make it impossible. I think they're in league with Iran in that matter. I think the Palestinians deserve a home just as much as the Israelis deserve a home. And I pray for that day to come. I don't think divesting by the University of Washington in the effort it would take to monitor that divestment and all its permutations every day to infinity until this problem is solved is a helpful way to get to that place in the world. So I also think it is divisive for the university. I think you can see it. I think we received something like 2,000 emails as regents not to divest, and we have people who put their selves on the line to protest and to be here and to risk arrest in some cases, and I respect that as well. But I think that those two things are represent the divisiveness that measures like this bring. My appeal to the regents after the vote today, whatever that vote is, and whatever the ultimate resolution of this petition is, I think as regents, we should entertain a motion at some point to stop accepting divestment proposals, because I think they're inherently divisive.
As I get arrested for continuing to disrupt, even though I pay tuition and tax dollars, you have all agreed that the legal standard that it is morally reprehensible has been met, but that it is too difficult or too hard or laborsome to deal with this issue. You're too greedy on considering the future. Think about that. Thank you.
You're fucking demons!
It's just too hard. It's just too hard.
I'm going to, against the advice, continue to ask if the regents want to say anything about this issue.
I'd like to finish. So at any rate, I would like for the regents to entertain the notion that maybe divestment is not the right way to solve these issues, because there's going to be another issue 6 months from now, another issue 2 years from that. We can stay constantly involved in talking about our investments and whether that's the right way to solve things. I don't agree with universities that have taken a position of total neutrality by the university. I'd like for the university to still be able to speak on issues, as President Kelsey has done. I hope our new president would speak on issues that are important to the world and be a voice representing the university in difficult issues around the world. And in this case, the reprehensibility of Israel's conduct in this matter, and the reprehensibility of Hamas's attack on innocents in the taking of 251 people who didn't deserve to be taken. But I don't think divestment is the way to solve that. So I'd like to ask the regents to consider that. I will be voting in favor of the motion made by Regent tonight.
Any other regents want to say their piece before I do a roll call where your vote will be on the record?
I just quickly want to say that it is the deep division commentary that has also concerned me. While I appreciate that voices have been expressed to us through a lot of written documentation, and I appreciate the tremendous effort that went into that. I read these, and the continuing documents that were presented to us reflected a lot of thought, conviction, emotion, and I just want to thank the students for taking that effort. Those efforts are not worthless. I want to assure you that. But I have not, as a lawyer, I look at what I have been given as guidelines. These guidelines were promulgated before I came on the board, and it's what we have to guide us. They may not be perfect, but it's what we have. And the guidelines say that criteria must be met, not criterion, not one, not two, but all of them have to be addressed. And the one that concerns me the most is the deep division that this issue has caused, and we're living it. We're seeing it today. It's a reflection of the division. The anti-Semitism and Islamophobia task forces both concluded that both sides were distressed by perceived bias against them and perceived alienation. Our September Board of Regents meeting was disrupted. We could not continue our work. There was vandalism experienced by our president in our private home. Thousands of emails in this section. We have been experiencing the divisiveness of this issue and seeing how it is.
Genocide is divisive.
Very education. Another example of
Only university can cause them and bomb.
And so with that, I
Shame.
I will be supporting this motion as well.
Anyone else before we close and vote on this motion? Okay,
So to be clear, there is a motion on the table. It is not to convene an ACSRI in response to the petition. So a vote yes means not to convene an ACSRI. Regent Forsman.
Has there been a second?
There's a second.
Was there?
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you.
Regent Forsman.
Yes.
Regent Fuller.
Yes.
Regent Harris.
Abstain.
Regent Rhodes.
Yes.
Regent Rice.
Yes.
Regent Riojas.
No.
Regent Rustin. Regent Schumacher.
yes.
Regent Tamaki.
Yes.
Regent Walker.
Yes.
Regent Zeke.
Yes.
The motion carries.
You just chose fascism.
Pigs.
Hearing no further business, this meeting is adjourned.
Fuck you.
Zionist, piece of shit.
These regents have names. These regents have addresses. These regents have names. These regents have addresses.
Your neutrality is your complicity.
Would you help me?
Did you take good notes? Actually, could you explain it?
Yeah, they might not make much sense.
We're gonna have to.
Said that we have names and we have addresses. We are doing our job.
Blood is on your hands.
Okay, Karen.
And do not act.
Blood is on your hands. Hope you can sleep tonight.
Sorry, that was a threat. And I do not tolerate threats.
That was not a threat.
It was a threat.
She means because of your
And
conscience.
it was divided.
No, and it was divisive.
The only ones divided are you.
Okay.
Everyone here has the same opinion except you.
It is a threat, and we tolerate it. I'm sorry that we have to
If you seriously want to consider applying, I can think after this, I can think of 3 really good projects.
Yeah, you should forward it to us and then we'll try
Well, I
and...
already,
Oh, you
she
already
has it.
Oh, yeah, I dropped the ball.
Yeah, well, Monday is the deadline, so you got till Monday, 5 o'clock. But, so let me just I mean, well, I think you predicted it. I predicted it. I think it was the divisive thing that sort of went wrong. But I think the response to that, and that would be a really good problem.